A very good morning to all the viewers. You've tuned into the morning show on CNN News 18. I'm Koina Sharma and I'll take you through all the latest news and updates from in and around the world. But first up, we'll be discussing the Karnataka freebie war. Now, against the backdrop of the guarantees promised by Karnataka Congress before Assembly polls, Chief Minister Siddaramaiah will tomorrow take a final decision on the implementation of all the guarantees. A cabinet meeting is scheduled tomorrow, following which Congress party will lay out the details. Karnataka CM Siddaramaiah yesterday said that all the 5 guarantees will be implemented. However, it still remains unclear whether the guarantees will be implemented without any conditions, as the ministers remain tight-lipped pertaining to the question. This comes after the opposition parties mounted pressure on the newly formed government in Karnataka to fulfill the 5 guarantees. Now, the BJP also started campaigning against Karnataka Congress, demanding fulfillment of the promises. In fact, BJP leader Renuka Acharya asked the villagers not to pay their electricity bills. Let's take a look at what the Karnataka CM had to say.
Given by the officers in the presentation. So all these details will be placed in the cabinet meeting. On the basis of the information and also taking the opinion of the minister, we will take a decision in the cabinet which is going to be held on Friday.
Discussed in length about the manifesto and guarantee. We owe the words, we owe the responsibility, we have a commitment. It should be in a very systematic manner, in see that we implement in a proper to all those who are being eligible to it. Sometimes there will be issues. Some of them will be having in government employees, some of them will be having various other places. They may opt. Some of them have written a letter to us that we don't want. We have already received a letters that we don't want this benefit. We are already self-sufficient. All these things are there. So we are looking out all the possibility. Officers have given us 3-4 options. The cabinet will take a decisions on Friday.
ನಮ್ಮ ಸಾರ್ವಜನಿಕ ಬಂಧುಗಳು ಯಾವುದೇ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೂ ಯಾರು ವಿದ್ಯುತ್ ಬಿಲ್ಲನ್ನು ಕಟ್ಟಬಾರ್ದು. ವಿದ್ಯುತ್ ಬಿಲ್ ಕಟ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದರೆ ಅವರಿಗೆ ವಾಪಸ್ ಕಳಿಸ್ರಿ. ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಮಾತು ಉಳಿಸಿ ಹೇಳಿ ಮತ್ತು ಬಸ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಫ್ರೀ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದರೆ ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಬ್ಬ ಮಹಿಳೆಯರು ಬಸ್ ಹತ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ರಾಜ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಬೇಕಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರವಾಸ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಬಸ್ಸಿಗೆ ಉಚಿತವಾಗಿ ಬಸ್ ಪ್ರಯಾಣ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದರೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಕಂಡಕ್ಟರ್ಗಳು ಹಣವನ್ನು ವಸೂಲಿ ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದು. ಮತ್ತು ಮಹಿಳೆಯರಿಗೆ 2,000, ಯುವಕರಿಗೆ 1,500, ನಿರುದ್ಯೋಗಿಗೆ 3,000 ಅನೇಕ ಸುಳ್ಳು ಭರವಸೆ ಕೊಡಿದ್ರಿ. ತಕ್ಷಣ ತಾವು ಈಡೇರಿಸೋಕೆ ಇಲ್ಲಾದರೆ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಹೋರಾಟವನ್ನು ಹಮ್ಮಿಕೊಳ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಸರ್ಕಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಒತ್ತಾಯ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ವಿನಂತಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಮತ್ತು ಎಚ್ಚರಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಎಲ್ಲ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು.
What can we expect, sir, from the city?
No, we are just having a meeting to see how best we can implement these promises and how quickly we can implement these promises. And meeting has been summoned only just to see the reality, what is the data, what is the numbers, how best we can implement these things. It's a procedural thing, and tomorrow there is a cabinet, and cabinet will take a final decision.
So will there be any conditions, sir? That was the point of discussion.
How can I say that? The cabinet will come out with the decision tomorrow.
First is cabinet meeting, on that day it will be decided.
Sir, like without no condition as you promised, sir. Madam, without no condition.
For all ladies free. That's all. Rest I will track.
Today was a presentation by the officers on the various schemes. Friday we have a cabinet meeting where we will be discussing all the issues that has been shown today.
Well, moving our focus to Rajasthan, where despite the show of truce between Rajasthan CM Gehlot and former Deputy CM Sachin Pilot, clearly all is not well between the two yet. As the 31st May deadline given by Pilot to Gehlot government for probe into allegations of exam scam ended yesterday, Pilot, while addressing his supporters, made it very clear that he won't give up the pressure to order this probe. Now, this puts the central leadership in a very tight spot, as it shows that things are not well. Now, the Congress president is yet to make a blueprint which would be acceptable to all. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Modi also took a dig at the infighting. PM said that while corruption is the major hurdle in the way of development in Rajasthan's Congress, top leadership are busy fighting with each other for power.
भ्रष्टाचार और नौजवानों के भविष्य, इन दो मुद्दों पर किसी प्रकार का कोई समझौता कोई करे या मैं समझौता करूं, ये संभव नहीं है। अभी 1-2 दिन पहले मेरी बात दिल्ली में हुई थी। कांग्रेस का जो शीर्ष नेतृत्व है, अध्यक्ष जी हैं, बाकी सब लोग हैं, जो मांगे मैंने रखी थी उसका पूरा संज्ञान पार्टी को भी है। दिल्ली में परसों मैंने बात की है और मैंने कहा था, जब मैं 15 तारीख को मैंने एक सभा को संबोधित किया था जयपुर के अंदर, कि भाजपा के शासन में वसुंधरा जी के कार्यकाल में जो करप्शन के मामले उठे थे, जो खुद अशोक गहलोत साहब ने, मैंने, तमाम कांग्रेस नेताओं ने अपने मुंह से कई बार हम लोगों ने इन बातों को रखा था और ये बात पब्लिक डोमेन में है।
भाजपा के ने आपके हर आदेश की मर्यादा रखी है, लेकिन आपने 5 वर्ष पहले राजस्थान में भी एक जनादेश दिया था और बदले में राजस्थान को क्या मिला? क्या मिला? अस्थिरता और अराजकता। यहां 5 साल से विधायक, मंत्री, मुख्यमंत्री आपस में लड़ने में ही बिजी है। राजस्थान की जनता की कांग्रेस को कोई चिंता नहीं है। राजस्थान में अपराध चरम पर है। लोग अपने तीज त्योहार तक शांति से नहीं मना पाते।
Now, moving our focus to the burning state Manipur, where amid tensions prevailing in Manipur, Union Home Minister Amit Shah assured that the concerns will be addressed, while appealing for 15 days of continuous peace by the community leaders. Shah is slated to hold a press conference today at 11 a.m. This comes after his 3-day visit to the violence-hit state. Shah said several security review meetings to assess the situation. Now, the Home Minister also held an all-party meeting to seek support from political parties to bring back peace. Now, Shah met sports persons, civil society leaders and community heads to understand the ground issues. Now, CM N. Biren Singh has also appealed to the people of Manipur to not create roadblocks and hindrances on free movement of the security personnel and relief material. He further appealed to surrender all looted arms. Meanwhile, internet remains banned for 4-5 days.
Border inside one state. We are standing in the foothills. You can see behind me is Manipur Hills, the hillside, and this is basically the foothills. We are in Pukhao, Terapur area. Now this is a village which is now where now the gun firing, the noise of gun firing has become very common. People in this village, they stay with fear every day and every night. Gunfire होता है?
हाँ होता है।
तो क्या रोज ही होता है?
हाँ रोज होता है।
अभी क्या ये कॉमन बन गया है?
हाँ अभी कॉमन बन गए हैं। अभी हम लोग रात में सोने से बहुत डर लगता है, इसलिए और हम लोग शांति चाहता है।
तो अचानक ऐसे शुरू होता है?
हाँ हाँ होता है।
तो आप लोग सरकार से क्या बोलना चाहते हो?
हम लोग सरकार से बोलना चाहता हूँ, हम लोग शांति चाहता है।
रोज फायरिंग का आवाज होता है?
हाँ होता है, 3 दिन लगातार हो गया आज लेके।
आज सुबह हुआ?
सुबह भी हुआ है।
डर लगता है?
लगता है हम।
क्या हर रोज? आज सुबह भी हुआ
है, आज सुबह।
तो कब मुक्ति मिलेगा ये सब चीज से?
मालूम नहीं कब खत्म हो गया।
The division is very strong. We are not going to say that where we are. We are also not going to say that which community did what. But this is the division. What we are getting in ground is 2 different communities. They used to stay side by side. And now this is the scene where there has been a border. A border has been drawn like this. where the other community is no more here, and you can see that how the houses have been broken and burned down, and you can see that this is a border created between the two places, between the two communities, where this side, the other community, they are not there, and this side, other community which is dominant, they are there. But the division is so strong that this is the position, this is the way the houses have been burned down. This is the situation. This is the real face of violence in Manipur.
Well, moving our focus to the state of Maharashtra, where cities like Mumbai and Thane are getting a facelift via big-ticket infrastructure projects. Now, tribal villages within 60 to 80 kilometers away from Mumbai are still struggling every day in the summer for a drop of water. CNN News 18's Mayuresh Ganpate gets us this report from the Shahpur district.
As the water tanker reaches Chitaman village in the Shahpur district, women start gathering near the common well to fetch water. They have been waiting since early morning. Today the tanker reached late in their village. Many of these women couldn't go to work as the tanker didn't come on time. Every summer, these women have to schedule their work according to the timing of these water tankers.
पाणी टंचाई ही जो जानेवारी महिना चालू झाला की तिथून पाणी टंचाई चालू होते. मग आम्हाला टँकरनेच पाणी पुरवठा केला जातो आमच्याकडे. तर बायांची खूप धावपळ होते पाण्यामुळे. पाणी नाही मिळत वेळेवर. मग बाया पण इथे 2-2, 4-4, 5-5 तास इथे थांबतात एका दुडीसाठी. तर मग पाणीच नाही मिळत.
एक टँकर आला की तुम्हाला किती घागर पाणी मिळतं?
एक हा मोठा टँकर आला तर दिवसभर पाणी पुरतं, पण मग लहान टँकर आला तर दिवसभर पाणीच नाही पुरत. मग बायांना 1-1, 2-2 दुडी पाणी पुरतं, बाकीच्यांना तर पुरत पण नाही.
If a tanker doesn't come on time, these villagers have to wait for 3 to 5 hours to fetch water. Children also help their mothers fetch water, as everyone's aim is to fill as much water as they can, because there is no guarantee when the tanker will come the next day. Just a few kilometers from Chitaman village, we visited another tribal village called Naralwadi. This village is on a plateau. Here we met 60-year-old Jijabai, who also came to fetch water. Jijabai has been staying in this village for the last 30 years. According to her, nothing has changed. As her sons go for work, she only focuses on filling water for her family.
आम्हाला 25 वर्ष झाली.
आणि गावचं नाव काय तुझं?
आमचा खुद गाव हा का नारळवाडी.
आता मला सांग की इथे पाण्याची समस्या दरवेळी आहे?
नाही ना, आता आम्हाला किती वर्ष झाले पाणीच नाही. पाण्याचं लय टेन्शन नाही आम्हाला.
आता हे जेव्हा उन्हाळा येतो तेव्हा मग पाणी कुठून आणता तुम्ही? कसं आणता?
आम्हाला 2 किलोमीटर आणावं लागतं पाणी.
आता इथे जी विहीर आहे
ही विहीर आता ना टँकर असला चालू तेव्हाच पाणी आम्हाला. टँकर जर नाही आला तर 2 किलोमीटर एक हांडा घेऊन जावं लागतं.
तुला किती वर्ष झाली आहे गावात राहून?
आम्हाला 25 वर्ष झाले.
आणि 25 वर्षामध्ये परिस्थिती बदलली की नाही?
नाही, आता 2 वर्ष झाले कसं तर टँकर येतो. 2-4 दिवस मिळून आम्हाला पाणी भेटतंय.
The well which you are seeing in the visuals behind me is approximately at 2 kilometers distance from where I am standing in one of the tribal villages in Shahpur. During the summer, if government water tanker fails to come in any of these villages, then this much is the distance that the villagers have to cross to get 1 jar of water every day. These villagers are totally clueless that when their struggle will get over, because every summer this is the same old story that they have to struggle for each and every drop of water.
To end the plight of these tribals, the government has initiated the Bhavali Dam water scheme for more than 200 tribal villages in Shahpur, which face water scarcity every year in the summer. For this water scheme, the state government is spending 300 crore, and the local Zilla Parishad has been roped in to extend water pipelines to each home. As per the records, in the month of May, 38 water tankers are providing water to approximately 198 villages.
वैतरणा, मध्य वैतरणा ही धरणं या तालुक्यात आहेत, पण ती धरणं खाली आहेत
आणि ही टंचाईग्रस्त गावं वाडेपाडे या वरती पठार भागाला आपण आता या बघितलं असेल की कसारा घाटाच्या आसपास आपण या नारळवाडी या ठिकाणी आहोत, पठारावर आहोत. या ठिकाणी आजूबाजूला एकही सोर्स नाही की ते उचलून पाणी या गावाला देणं. आणि म्हणून मागील मी पंचवार्षिकमध्ये आमदार असताना मी विरोधी पक्षात होतो, परंतु या जिल्ह्याचे पालकमंत्री तत्कालीन आत्ताचे मुख्यमंत्री एकनाथ शिंदेसाहेब यांच्या सहकार्याने पाठपुराव्याने सातत्याने या 285 गावांची ही कायमस्वरूपी पाणी टंचाई दूर व्हावी.
Though the work for this water scheme has started, it will take another 24 months to complete the entire project, which means at least for the next 2 years, these tribals will have to struggle for water in the scorching heat. Moreover, there is no guarantee when the local Zilla Parishad will start the scheme to give piped water to each household.
Now moving our focus to some financial news. The US-based global investment bank Morgan Stanley in its latest report hailed India's growth under PM Modi government since 2014. In its latest report, Morgan Stanley said that India is transformed in less than a decade and has gained positions in the global order. Now CNN News 18's political editor Maria Shakil spoke exclusively to Morgan Stanley's MD Rhythm Desai. Let's listen in.
Your report says that Morgan Stanley ran into significant skepticism about India, particularly with overseas investors who say that India has not delivered its potential despite it being the second fastest growing economy. Why, according to you and your research, what did India do right in the last 9 years which it did not do earlier?
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show. So lots of things have happened, actually. I think, first of all, and this is a bit technical, India has focused on macro stability. So if I were to use purely from an economic perspective, I would characterize the Prime Minister as an inflation hawk, which essentially means that he doesn't want inflation. And this is very critical for prosperity of the economy. So in order to achieve that outcome, he actually changed the mandate for the central bank. So our Reserve Bank of India is now solely focused on delivering lower inflation outcomes. And the best result of this was seen during the pandemic. While the world at large was facing runaway inflation, countries like US, which normally have sub 2% inflation, experienced 9% inflation. India's inflation rise was very modest. So in part, this was to do with how the RBI's policy was framed, and in part it had to do with how the government actually protected poor people during the pandemic. So instead of doling out cash, which is what a lot of Western hemisphere economies did, India was actually giving food, and that's not inflationary. So that's the first big change. We call this macro stability. So its macro is far more stable. The second thing that has happened, I think, is how India does social transfers. And the seeds of this were sown when the Prime Minister decided that we have to accelerate Aadhaar and identify each and every Indian digitally. And India Stack and Aadhaar allows the government to actually make social transfers very efficiently without leakages. And that actually achieves desired outcomes. So this is the second big change that I would highlight.
Well, it's a huge thumbs up for Modinomics from Morgan Stanley. Now we are slipping into a short break. Stay tuned for more news and updates. We'll be right back.
Would the relationship with either Pakistan or, for that matter, China be characterized as normal? So what would you attribute to this change of ground situation in Kashmir?
No, I think that's because Prime Minister Modi has, you see, right from the beginning, he gave us two broad mantras. One was zero tolerance towards corruption, other was zero tolerance towards terrorism. And in the context of the sensitive areas like Jammu and Kashmir, when these two mantras were applied in letter and spirit with all the sincerity, particularly in the last 3 years or 4 years, you've seen the results happening. It was because of terrorism not being handled in the manner it should have, because with one step forward, two step backward approach by the then political leadership, which was looking, which always had a vote back on the back of its mind. But on the contrary, Prime Minister Modi felt the pulse of the people of Kashmir, where the people of Kashmir are highly aspirational. The people of the common man walking in the streets of Srinagar wants to move on. The youth of Kashmir is not only aspirational, he is very well awakened, he is very well informed, he has had a rich legacy of making a distinguished contribution to India's civil services and all the other leading areas, and that milieu was not being provided to him because of a wheel of fear, militancy. And once that is gone, you see how this year we had nearly 1.6 or 1.7 crore tourists in Kashmir Valley. So this means the change was waiting to happen, but those at the helm either did not have the vision to carry it forward, or they had some other vested interest because they flourished in that mayhem of terrorism. So there was a group or nexus which had flourished, whether it was the polity, whether it is the trade, whether it is the industry, and the ruling dispensations, generation after generation, flourishing under the shadow of terrorism, where voting percentage would be just 10%, 12%, and they would get elected as members of parliament and members of the legislative assembly, and then go on to become chief minister and ministers from generation to generation. So all that is over now.
One criticism though, Dr. Singh, and this is my final question, that the opposition constantly raises against Mr. Modi's government is on two issues. Number one, price rise, the other, unemployment. They're saying that on both of these issues, the Modi government has not done a good job, that people are hurting. And also they've criticized the recent inauguration of the new parliament, saying that, you know, opposition leaders were not invited, the president was not invited. India is slipping away from being a democracy to some kind of electoral autocracy. How do you respond to that criticism?
No, I think these kind of accusations hardly need to be responded to, because it's opposition. It has to oppose. You cannot ask the Congress to come and pat my back and say, very well done. Otherwise, what would they contest election for? And when they say autocracy, the whole, you know why Prime Minister Modi is being looked up to by the rest of the world? Because he has been decisively elected by 140 crore people of this country.
Path and lights.
Hello and welcome back. You're watching CNN News 18. While CNN News 18's managing editor Zaka Jacob spoke exclusively to Union Minister Jitendra Singh over completion of 9 years of the BJP government at the centre. Let's listen in.
What has been your assessment of this journey so far, particularly when it comes to national security? What in your mind have been the top two or three things that the Modi Sarkar has done which you believe has not been done in the last 75 years?
Today, the esteem of an Indian, or even his self-esteem, is at a very high level. An Indian is proud of being an Indian, whether he's living within the country or he's outside the country as a diaspora. And I think the single most important factor which has contributed to this is the personal outreach of Prime Minister Modi, and the manner he's been able to successfully transform the entire perception through a very hard work and through a number of path-breaking reforms. Today, Prime Minister Modi stands as the world's tallest leader, and the world looks up to India to be led by it, to take cues from what India is doing under Prime Minister Modi. I think one of the most distinguished examples is that of COVID. Now, for example, during the COVID times, the entire world was looking up to India with a huge degree of apprehension, and India was being, seen as with a lot of contempt, as if this was a hot spot, a country of 130, 140 crore people, always not very appreciably able to manage its population, and everybody assumed that we would not be able to manage ourselves during the COVID pandemic, and we would become actually a nuisance for the other countries. But it's the other way around. We've seen how European countries with just 500,000 population could not contain themselves, whereas it was India under Prime Minister Modi, which not only managed to contain COVID, but also came up with the first ever DNA vaccine and provided it to the other countries of the world, to the rest of the world. And this was happening from a country which was till a decade or so ago not very distinguishedly known as a country or as a society which had much of an aptitude for preventive health care.
Well, moving our focus to some international news on the great battle of the Republican Party, where Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is trying to seize the reins of the Republican Party from the hands of Donald Trump, pitching himself as a fighter who can win. Now, DeSantis has kicked off his presidential campaign with multi-day tour. Take a look at this CNN's report.
We can't make excuses. We have to be able to get the job done.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is trying to seize the reins of the Republican Party from the hands of Donald Trump, pitching himself as a fighter who can win.
This bureaucracy has imposed its will on us for far too long. It's about time we impose our will on it and that it answers to we the people.
On his first full day of campaigning across Iowa as a declared presidential candidate, DeSantis made clear he would draw distinctions with the former president on his terms.
I am going to counterpunch. I'm going to fight back on it. I'm going to focus my fire on Biden. And I think he should do the same. He gives Biden a free pass. I'm focusing on Biden.
But long before DeSantis can confront President Biden, he must first get through a Republican primary and a growing field of challengers, including former Vice President Mike Pence, who is poised to enter the race next week, CNN has learned. But Trump still looms largest over the race. Tonight, he arrives here to offer something of a rebuttal to DeSantis, the latest sign the race is intensifying, with the Iowa caucuses early next year among the first tests for the strength of Trump's grip on the GOP. Simona Yentes is among the Iowa Republicans weighing their options, and at this point, she's utterly undecided.
I have a tremendous amount of respect for many things President Trump did in office, so I have to keep that in mind. I also have a tremendous amount of respect for what Governor DeSantis has done in Florida.
It's that deeply conservative record DeSantis is touting as he introduces himself to Iowa voters, even as he steps up his subtle contrasts with Trump.
At the end of the day, leadership is not about entertainment. It's not about building a brand. It's not about virtue signaling. It is about results.
At his side was one of his closest political advisors, his wife Casey, who picked up the argument where he left off.
At the end of the day, I say that it matters in the moment, and you see how a leader conducts himself when the lights are on.
Well, it's a wrap from my side. Stay tuned to CNN News 18 for more news and updates as the day progresses. Thanks for watching.